Welcome to Season 2, Episode 4 of Tech Talk Thursdays. My guest today is Joel Scutchfield. He's Director of Sales for Koh Young Americas. Koh Young, of course, have been at the forefront of AOI technology and were the innovators of SBI back in the early days of SMT inspection. Next week, they're going to be launching a whole range of new products at SMTAi virtual show. Here to talk about it is Joel Scutchfield. So my guest today is Joel Scutchfield. He's the Director of Sales for Koh Young in the Americas. Welcome, Joel. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Trevor. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Always good to see and talk with you. Again, would rather be in Rosemont doing this as we normally do, but here we are. It's a new day, and we'll adjust. We'll make it work.
Well, that's what we're all having to do. So, this is the first time that, of course, SMTAi is being held as a virtual event. Traditionally, you bring something new to trade shows. This is where you show your new products. What have you got that's new this week?
Sure. We want to stay with that theme and that concept, regardless of the circumstances. And with the virtual setup that SMTAi has organized, we've been able to configure our virtual booth to highlight basically 5 different sectors, product sectors for us. The first being the KPO 2.0 tool, which is the next generation of our Koh Young print process optimizer. And that includes a lot of advancements from the initial release, feedback from customers, things that we have identified that could be improved, made better, as well as the third piece of that tool. If you recall, we have the analyzer module, advisor module that we utilize on the front end to do the automated DOE and get our recommended settings for speed, pressure, and release. The diagnostic module, which then now monitors that information and those settings for anomalies. And then now the final piece, the optimizer, which allows the customer to utilize the tool to take full control of that printer for those adjusted variables of speed, pressure, and release. So it's a truly a hands-off concept at that point. So that's one, and that's a big one for us. We're also highlighting the Neptune T, which is our tabletop version of dispensed process inspection, dispensed fluid inspection. And that can cover everything from conformal coating to underfill. We can even measure LED lenses for diameter and height. It's basically using laser interferometry for fluid tomography, and that's kind of a mouthful. I can go into a little bit more detail on that if you'd like after we walk through the various products that we're highlighting, but it's basically 3D measurement for thickness of dispensed materials, wet or dry, non-destructive, and again, transparent, translucent. We have very high hopes for this, especially as it transitions very shortly to our inline version of this system. So what we're highlighting in the show is the tabletop version, and certainly that's something that we're marketing to failure analysis labs, basically any customer that would have a audit need, if you will. It's not inline at this point. Material suppliers, anyone that would need true measurement of these types of materials.
Okay, so let's go through each of these items separately. Starting off with the KYP3 system, which you're using for your.
Yeah, and I didn't mention that, but that is the third of the 5. So I can talk a little bit about that if you like, or you can ask. It's basically our pin/terminal inspection system. This system's been out for several years now and in use with very good results. It's somewhat niche from the standpoint. It's really focused on customers that are building boards with a very high content of pins and terminals and need that full 3D measurement up to 25 millimeters in height. And that would be people like smart junction box or junction box manufacturers, backplane manufacturers. The added capability that we're highlighting at the show is the additional ability to inspect not only the terminals and pins, but also the SMDs at the board surface in a single pass. So for those folks, like the smart junction box manufacturers, this is really ideal, right? They don't have to have two separate machines for surface mount and pin inspection. We can do it all in one. And then the fourth highlighted tool would be our K-Smart 2.0 tool suite. And Trevor, we talked a lot about our Koh Young Smart Factory tools over the past few years. And again, much like KPO 2.0, K-Smart 2.0 is something that was born of feedback from the customers and inputs for how to improve, in addition to an initiative that we've had for some time to really integrate the various tools, SPC, real-time monitoring, remote monitoring, link, etc., into a comprehensive, almost line control type package where we have interactive communication capability between those various tools and add in the element of being able to calculate things like OEE, right? Operational effectiveness, right? Overall equipment effectivity, and provide customers with customized reports and real-time notifications for out-of-control situations. Right. And then, of course, the last piece is our standard go-to with regards to our AOI and SPI tools, right? Our 8030, Zenith Alpha, Zenith 2, all of the rest of the catalog, if you will. So those are the five selections, if you will, that we'll have in the booth when you enter.
Right. So let's talk through the first of these. You talked about the paste verification system at the printer, basically using the SPI. How does that technology work? Does it actually inspect the board, the volumes of the paste, then put together some sort of file that characterizes the amount of missing paste or insufficiency, and pass that information onto the printer?
Exactly, and the original closed-loop feedback tool that I think many of us in this SPI world have available now, with all of the usual suspects on the printer side, makes adjustments or gives recommendations for adjustments for things like X shift, Y shift, theta, maybe clean cycle. So, and again, that's been around for a while. What we've done with the KPO tools is, again, really take that to the next level. So, as I mentioned, we're providing the customer with the opportunity to do a automated DOE with a sample run of approximately 13 pasted boards, which we basically feed that data to our AI engine and use the machine learning to come back with recommendations for speed, pressure, and release. And we've actually tested this against some pretty good experienced process engineers and guys that have been in this business for a long time, and what it would take even someone like that, anywhere from 16 to 20 hours to complete, we're able to do in 2 to 3 hours. So it's really a significant improvement. And then we continue on with the machine learning and the applications of the AI, which, as you know, we've made a significant investment in, Trevor, with our Cura team in San Diego, for the diagnostics piece, where we're giving much more feedback and information than just X shift, Y shift. We're looking for trends, volume related, and so forth, and then allowing the optimizer piece to read that information, and again, using the AI to make those adjustments automatically for speed, pressure, and release when needed. So that's certainly one of the largest applications of AI for us so far, as well as the auto programming tool and mount feedback.
When you refer to AI, are you talking about going to a machine learned database of results that it pulls from, or are you talking about the machine actually making an independent decision?
Well, it depends on the application, right? So I think there's a mix of all of the above going on, right? And in this case, it may be a little bit different than how we're applying it to our auto programming tool for AOI, let's say, where in that case we have an existing, at this point, 450 package library that we can now match to the customer's board in that programming process, as well as with the next generation tool, actually go back to their existing library and learn their existing library, and then apply that now to that same programming routine. And then when that information gets saved back again to their existing library has grown exponentially, right? The next time through, we do the same thing, and so it's a little bit different in each case. The piece that we're working on right now and very close to releasing is the mounter feedback piece, where from a pre-reflow environment, we can judge and give feedback on anomalies that may be created by feeder, spindle, nozzle-related issues. And the first go, and again, with the application of AI in time, self-correct, make adjustments for those anomalies, skip that feeder, skip that nozzle, etc. As we go forward. And as we've talked about, Trevor, many times, with the whole CFX initiative, with the Smart Factory initiative, in our world, it goes beyond just passing information. We have to be able to do something with that information, right? We have to be able to self-correct, self-adjust, self-heal. Mm-hmm. And we'll get there. We'll certainly get there with CFX. But we're doing some things along the way to be able to allow for some of that outside of that framework, and with the intent that it will all come together at some point.
Yeah. I mean, of course, when you're
try first. Don't just say, I can't. Try and find a way to do it.
We will exceed your expectations.
Nice to meet you. We are Omron.
talking about doing self-correct on the pick and place system, you're relying on somebody buying a 2D AOI system to put behind the pick and place, so that you can gather that information to send back to the to autocorrect to the pick and place. And that's typically one of the areas that people don't like to buy an inspection system. Either do it post reflow, and they'll have an SPI system to autocorrect at the printer. But it's sometimes a tough sale getting that 2D AOI behind the pick and place. But a very necessary step if you're going to provide the closed loop inspection that you're talking about.
Yeah, it's really a key piece if you want to really achieve the Smart Factory initiative that everyone's driving toward at this point, right? As well as other benefits to go along with that. Trevor, we have customers that actually only do SPI and pre-reflow, and their assumption is that if they have those two processes in place, the print process, of course, and the placement/reflow placement process, the reflow oven is easy enough to control, and they're good to go coming out of the oven. Not a lot, but there are those out there. But we are seeing more and more now looking very hard at what we call the three-point inspection landscape: SPI, pre-reflow, post-reflow, and then of course all of the tools we're creating allow for interaction and connectivity and those systems to talk to each other and do all of the things that we're talking about. So we see that as a huge opportunity, pre-reflow. There's a lot to be gained. There really is.
Well, there is, because I mean, the minute you put it through the reflow oven and bake it, then you're into money to try and fix the problem if you have one. So the more that you can match up the line, the less money it's going to cost you. Anyway, I want to move on now to some of the other technologies you're talking about. I mean, for example, inspecting dispensed materials is an important area covered by your Neptune T. How does your lift technology work?
So it's a bit of a departure from our traditional moire interferometry concept, Trevor, that we've been using for years with our SPI and AOI systems. LIFT stands for Laser Interferometry for Fluid Tomography. Now, that's a mouthful, but basically what we're doing is we're using low coherence interferometry, which is basically near IR light, NEAR, IR light, and feeding that through a mirror structure in our probe, which creates the angle of incidence to the board surface, and then feed that information back to the sensor to get basically the multiple layers of fluidic structure that we use now to do our 3D reconstruction to come up with that thickness height analysis. So again, it's still in that family with the interferometry concept, but it's a slight departure. This particular tool, again, is a tabletop system. So as I mentioned earlier, you select the area, you apply the algorithm for detection, you reconstruct, and roughly 12 seconds for every 4 by 4 millimeter field of view is what you can expect from a viewport standpoint. Now again, all of that is being transferred to our inline version, and that will be out before the end of the year. And the initial application will be for conformal coating inspection. That's where we see the most interest at this point, and already have multiple folks ready to jump in and take a hard look. So we see that as also a very sizable market to be penetrated as we go forward. So very excited about that, and have very high hopes in what that can do.
Inspection systems coming on the market, but the critical part about it is to get the thickness testing correct.
And to do it fast, Trevor. That's the other side, right? So
well, yeah, and in actual fact, looking at the FOV on this system, etc., there's a lot. It sounds to me, as a layman, it sounds like there's going to be a lot of data coming off of there. So I think the processing time of the data is going to be important too.
It is, and but that's something we're very used to, right? Being V3D inventors, I think I can safely say that in the inspection system world, we've had to deal with that from the beginning, the just immense amount of data. But that's the benefit of the Koh Young technology, having that additional measurement-based, parametric, objective data, as opposed to the 2D analysis of 255 shades of black, white, and gray, is really what we feel sets us apart. So we see the same advantage going forward with the conformal coating system. The idea is that we can do this, and we're going to be able to do it much faster than anybody out there because of what we've already learned with our other technologies and being able to apply that here.
Okay. Does the Neptune T have any issues with reflective devices or areas?
So we did see some issues early on, but we've been able to overcome that. So obviously with working with light, working with reflective surfaces, angles are very critical, right? Same rules apply to doing a pin and terminal inspection, very shiny, very reflective. So we've had to make some adjustments on the penetration angles with the light source that we're using to generate those 3D images. So we've been able to overcome that in that fashion, right? We're able to change the angle of incidence, and in doing so, eliminate the reflectivity issues.
Right. Okay. Let's move on now to the KYP3 that we touched on earlier. It's a mixed technology. It does it measures obviously the pins as well as the devices on the board. Again, is that working? Does that building up a library doing of different types of pin geometries and that type of thing? Is that how it's working?
It is, exactly, Trevor. So much like our AOI tools, we are building our library as we go. Now, the caveat there is with the auto programming tool that we've created, it's very surface mount component centric at this point. So in the case of a hybrid board, as we're discussing here, say a smart junction box, we're going to apply the auto programming engine to the surface mount components first and foremost. The pins and terminals will be learned and taught as we go. Eventually, those packages will also be built into the auto programming engine, such that down the road we have pre-assigned package information for various terminal types, just like we would for a various 0402 component, right? So it's an evolutionary thing. Initially, we're using the KAP tool for the surface mount components. We're teaching the pins and terminals as we go, and of course, once they're taught and in the library, nothing more needs to be done. They're there forever, and there's only so many packages on the terminal and pin side. It's not like the surface mount side, so that builds very quickly.
Right.
And I think we'll be able to incorporate that very quickly into the KAP tool as well, for that reason.
Right. Yeah, and I think once it's there, as you say, it's there. But I mean, the speed of programming is another thing. I mean, is that something that your programming speed is your automatic programming speed is fairly fast?
Yeah, we've been able to do some pretty cool things with the auto programming tool that we've created. And again, that's all through the efforts of R&D in Korea and our KIRA, Koh Young America Research Group in San Diego, which is 100% focused on the application of AI. So the two working together to create this tool that has basically, in many verified cases, been able to reduce programming time up to 70% of what it previously was. And we see that only improving and increasing as we go forward, and we continue to build that library, apply more of the machine learning concepts using the customer's library. So yeah, that's been a bit of a game changer, absolutely.
Well, Joel, it sounds like you've got a lot of new products, exciting products actually, you're bringing onto the market, all playing into this sort of smart factory space. Your K-Smart, of course, is at the center of that. That's the process control system. And does that work, for example, if you go into a factory where you've got mixed machines, they maybe already have an installed AOI system, which might not be a Koh Young one. Does that all integrate? Can you make these things work together?
So there's two pieces to that, right? There's the CFX piece, and we are actively and heavily involved in that, and we'll be involved in the evolution of being able to apply and comply with additional events, which I think are going to be very centered around using information as opposed to just looking at results data, right? And eventually, as I said earlier, the end game is that everybody can play with everybody, right? So at the moment, we are working with many different players on the screen printer side with our K-Smart KPO print process optimizer. Likewise, all the usual suspects on the mounter, on the pick and place side, for the mount feedback piece that I spoke to earlier. So we are able to play with others within the line. With regards to competitors at this point, that's still on the fringe, right? I think that's going to be the CFX piece. Everybody's still kind of holding on to their secret sauce a little bit with regards to that. But through the use of tools like Aegis and Mentor Graphics Valor and ITAC, we certainly can move information to a location where then someone can take those results and do something with it. So that's another opportunity, and those are things that we're looking at as well. So it's not necessarily direct communication, but it's providing everything that that particular supplier might need to do what they need to do or what the customer needs them to do using our data. And so, we're playing nice, but it's an evolutionary process. But the good news is, we talk about this every year, and every year there's much more connectivity. I think a higher level of cooperativeness. I think the CFX initiative has done a lot to drive that, and that's only good stuff, right? So we just keep doing it.
Yeah. So last question, Joel, before I let you go. I mean, we're unfortunately all living in a COVID-19 world. Are you seeing evidence among your EMS customers of them introducing greater automation into the factories to be able to help with safety in the factory, to improve social distancing and all these different things that we need now? Are you seeing any evidence of that?
Well, I think there's no doubt, Trevor, that this condition that we're living in has created a heightened awareness from everything going contactless to just as you alluded to, the minimization of group gatherings, right? Whether it be at a party, at a wedding, or on a production floor, right? So there's definitely, I think, a rethinking that's going on, and that just plays into this. I think it's going to continue to drive and push the need for more connectivity, but also more intuitive tools, right? There's going to be less people on the factory floor, and that applies to our industry and others as we start to reshore. Automation is going to be the key, and using the data, Industry 4.0, it's all going to be the key to being able to achieve what we know can be achieved. And again, as you noted, it's playing a part. Yeah, it's certainly playing a part. And that's one of those things that's not going to go away when all this is over, right? So we have to be ready, and we have to continue on that path.
Right. But I mean, it's bringing in a lot of change, and some companies are trying to tighten up their supply chain. Some are relocating to mitigate risk. And I'm just wondering, when they're going through that level of change, are they using that opportunity to introduce more automation into what they do?
Right, and we have seen an increase in interest in the K-Smart tools in particular. A funny side note: I've had conversations with multiple business owners, whether it be restaurateurs or our customers in this industry, EMS companies, for example, and I asked, did you get everybody back when you reopened? Because as we know, a lot of people just went off and did other things, or for various reasons, we're not available. The answer in almost every case was, we got back who we wanted back, and we got back who we needed back. So, that reading between the lines, they realize that they can do what they need to do with a well-trained staff, applying more automation, more of the technology that's being provided, and have the same or better results as what they were seeing before. So.
Interesting. Right. Really interesting world we live in. Joel, it's been great catching up with you. I wish you every success for the remainder of SMTAi and beyond. And hopefully we're going to meet each other again in the flesh at some point in the not too distant future.
Well, thank you, Trevor. Likewise, yes, I'm much looking forward to that. We're all ready to get back out there. There's no doubt about that. But until then, we'll make this work. And again, always great talking with you. Really appreciate the opportunity, and look forward to when we can do it again.
So that's it for this week's edition of Tech Talk Thursday. Join us again next week for another edition of the show. And in the meantime, we're going to be picking up a lot of the news and information from SMTAi Virtual next week. So until then, have a great weekend and stay safe.
Global SMT and Packaging opens the windows of the world to bring you the latest news and technologies from Munich, from Bangalore, from Shanghai, from San Diego.